Tell us a little bit about what you saw and being able to relay that message to Cora when you watched Kimbrel pitch and kind of help out so he wasn't tipping his pitches.
So tipping pitches, we hear about it all the time.
People at home understand what tipping pitches is all about.
It's amazing.
And that's remarkable.
Alex, because of confidentiality, I'm not sure how much we can say about the cold open topic here on today's podcast. Confidentiality because I want to say we've been asked to participate in this project.
Right.
That project is Alex Rodriguez's life documentary being shopped to various suitors. I'm so glad this news is finally out. You know, we've known about this for, 7 months now? Is that when we did our first, background interview for it?
Right.
As the historians of Alex Rodriguez's life. And also, you being someone who's worked so closely with him at A-Rod Corp over the years.
Right, as an executive assistant.
How's that going?
I'm actually the guy who posts all of his Instagram stories, so please stop roasting me for them, guys. I'm doing my best.
I actually thought that you weren't the guy who posted the stories. I thought that you were the guy who picks the thumbnails for all of his Instagram reels.
I'm actually designing
his face 1,000-yard stare. You're the guy who finds the right 1,000-yard stare for the thumbnail of his Instagram reels.
I'm the guy who designs the YouTube video thumbnails, where it's like a picture of him in aviators and it's like A-Rod's 5 keys to success in life.
Bright green bubble letters.
Right, exactly.
Underlined 7 times with a bunch of exclamation points. Alex is doing his own Man in the Arena.
Mm-hmm.
He even got the guy who directed Man in the Arena, Gotham Chopra, to come along with it. He's trying to do his own Man in the Arena. He's trying to do his own The Captain. Alex Rodriguez wants to do, according to Andrew Marchand of the New York Post, Alex Rodriguez is shopping a documentary to networks and streamers about his life. Could be very interesting if it's done right. If A-Rod were willing to delve deep into the specifics of the highs and lows. Marchand wonders if Rodriguez will shed new light on the truth of what happened around his year-long suspension from baseball for PED usage. Rodriguez's story is a tremendous story, worthy of a documentary, if told correctly. Gotta say, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Do you think it's going to be honest and forthcoming? I guess before you answer that, should we clear out a month on the pod just to talk about the documentary?
Yeah, I mean,
nothing
yes.
else.
This feels like
the culmination of our work.
The culmination of our work. Maybe the best opportunity we have to invite him on, right? Again, being a part of this project.
Oh, you're going that way.
Yeah.
See, I'm over here worried about us trying to get us in his project, and you're trying to get him in our project.
Yeah, of course. Well, we're already involved in the project, right? Now that we already have the open line to him. We should say we're the narrators. We're the ones who frame the whole story.
Right. We're like the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern
right.
of the Alex Rodriguez documentary.
We're, for all you Drive to Survive fans, we're like the Will Buxtons, the journalists they bring in to kind of narrate the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
They were generous enough.
We're like
to turn
the
to
John
us.
Hamm of Trey Turner's highlight package.
Yes. Can we keep going? Are there any others we can come up with? I'm excited for this. More like
I'm just excited for people to see the vision. Like what we've seen so far, it looks really good. They got an archive. A vault of footage.
Yeah,
you always hear that. There's always vaults of footage. Where are all these vaults?
Mm-hmm.
Are they just in PO boxes scattered around the United States?
It's just a computer.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
That's like
the cloud. It's just another computer.
Yeah.
Where are these vaults of footage? It's just a USB. Sounds less sexy when you put it that way.
I guess the question I kind of come to with this is where is he finding the time for this, right? He has got so much going on right now between the original content he's already producing for his various social media channels, owning an NBA team.
Yeah. He's putting a lot of time into that one.
Right, exactly.
Unfortunately, they got eliminated in the first round.
Well, so he's got a little more time on his hands. That's what you're saying.
Well, no, now the real work starts improving the team for next year.
So true.
There's not a Rudy Gobert trade out there again, so they got to figure something else out. They got to figure out a worse player to give up more first round picks for.
Do you think that the genesis of this idea was when he was approached to be in Derek Jeter's documentary?
Yeah, duh.
Without a doubt,
obviously.
right? He was that's a really good idea.
I mean, no. Do I think that he never thought about doing a documentary about his life before this? No, but
Right.
of course, this is a trend now.
Yeah.
And Gotham Chopra, the filmmaker attached to it, who interesting career for that guy, has directed a ton of sports documentaries, and also just is in the film The Love Guru. He has various interests, you know.
Sure.
This is such a trend for like athletes to not only do a documentary about their lives, but make it this all-encompassing, like birth to death. I'm going to govern the story. I'm going to give access. And it obviously was like, you know, gasoline was poured onto this fire. Maybe that's a really negative metaphor for this. It's like not really that insidious of a thing, but like the Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance, was really the thing that like made it the financially en vogue thing to do, both for the athlete side and also for like the company, the streamer side, or the, you know, production company side. So I don't think it was like the first time it crossed his mind, but I do think that it was the thing that kind of got the ball rolling for him, is sitting down for these interviews and seeing the buzz and the excitement and the engagement over the captain.
Yeah.
The documentary series about Derek Jeter. Now, I think that documentary series was well made, you know, like Randy, who we had on, his friend of the pod, and we had on to talk about it, and is a wonderful filmmaker in his own right, had like a more creative control over it than some other projects in this vein. And I am curious as to whether or not Alex Rodriguez would give away that kind of control over something like this to actually make this documentary as worthwhile as something like The Captain, or as interesting and intriguing as something like The Captain. Of course, I'm not trying to imply that like Jeter didn't have final sign off on his documentary series or anything like that, but how willing you are to like let the other people involved in the process does determine whether or not this actually turns into something like worth watching for people like you and me, despite the fact that we've participated in it. So we'll watch it either way.
Right. I do think that A-Rod's mentality is probably a little bit, because I mean, when we had Randy on, he noted that there was a bit of acrimony. They weren't the most straightforward discussions. There was, you know, light confrontation, just recognizing his dynamic that he had over the years with Derek Jeter and that sort of thing. And so a part of me does wonder if this is his...
You mean the dynamic that he was a better baseball player for their entire careers,
yes,
and yet somehow people loved Jeter more?
Yeah, exactly. I think he probably sees this as a way to center himself in the story a little bit more. Like, of course, Jeter had creative control over the captain, which I think meant that his perspectives, his firsthand perspectives, were not always the ones that were the most engaging. That's why I think that like the A-Rod conversations were really fascinating, because he had to talk about someone else, right? As opposed to simply saying, okay, tell me your press release life story. You know, now what I'd love to see is Derek Jeter turn down the interview for this. Say, sorry, dude, I'm too busy. Haven't you heard? I'm on Fox these days.
I think it's interesting to hear A-Rod talk about other people, like you said.
Exactly.
It's interesting to hear other people talk about A-Rod, but it's not interesting to hear A-Rod talk about A-Rod.
No.
Because then it just turns into his YouTube channel. It's always like, the version of A-Rod in A-Rod's head is so divorced from reality. That's why, like, so I Googled to find this article, to the Andrew Marchand article in the New York Post. I Googled A-Rod documentary. And of course, when you do that, the first thing that comes up is 2018 Screwball, which is a documentary about biogenesis and A-Rod's involvement in that, which is an amazing documentary. And I think kind of like poisons the well of an A-Rod documentary. Like, is it going to be better than that?
Right.
Is it going to be more interesting than that? And like you said, I think the key phrase that you used was take back control of his own narrative and image, which in many ways his entire post-playing career has been about doing that exact thing.
Yeah.
Going on TV, doing the K-Rod cast, going in the booth, Sunday Night Baseball, you know, the Fox News or the Fox Sports set, his YouTube channel, his book, all these other things, his stock market where you trade athletes has all been about like resetting the image of what is A-Rod. And he's bigger than he's ever been now at this point, which is crazy.
Yeah.
In terms of just blanket reach. But I still don't think he's, in his mind, like corrected the record on that time period of his life, like his playing career and how he became this way.
Right.
This way being the way that we talk about him all the time, like this super weird figure in baseball and pop culture.
I mean, I think that speaks to like rich person syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Where like if you receive any amount of criticism, you feel that it's your responsibility to correct the record, right? It's what we're seeing with like Elon Musk over the last like year, right? Is that any form of criticism can get under his skin, and he feels like he has to come out and say something about that, right? So I do think that like you're right that A-Rod will probably never be completely satisfied with the public narrative around him, because there will always be something that he's like, no, you guys don't get it. You deserve to hear my side of the story. And it's like, I actually don't care. I'm good with the gossip. The gossip's fun.
I'm pretty certain that nothing in here will be new.
No.
I'm still going to watch it.
Of course.
There would be new stuff in there if they actually did talk to us, though. As the unbiased third-party record keepers.
Right, exactly.
Alex Rodriguez's cultural footprint.
The unauthorized biographers.
The title gets longer every time we name it. Okay, we have some fun stuff to talk about today. Fun maybe wasn't the right word. We have some stuff to talk about today. The blockchain, things of that nature. The Oakland Athletics. But before we do that, I'm Bobby Wagner.
I'm Alex Baisley.
And you are listening to Tipping Pitches. Do you want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and even earn money. All in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters. And Alex, how does it work?
I'm so glad you asked, Bobby. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So no matter what your setup's like, you can start creating today. And then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard.
With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Spotify for Podcasters is where we host our podcast, and it is super easy to use. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. Thank you to this week's new patrons, Andrew, Robert, and Rachel. Alex, before you came over here, before we decided what we were going to talk about today, I was at the gym, just thinking.
Right. Getting gains.
Thinking about the state of the world.
Yeah.
Thinking about the state of the digital universe, Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
How these two things interact.
Mm-hmm. As one does at the gym.
And I was like, well, here's what actually happened. My phone died at the gym.
So you're like,
so I was alone with my own thoughts. And this is what came to me.
That's great.
This is really pulling the curtain all the way back. This is how my brain works. Can we talk about non-fungible tokens?
Sure.
Can we talk about the blockchain? Because there's two reasons I want to talk about this. And they're both companies. Number one is Terra. Number two is, I don't know how to pronounce it. So rare.
Sorare.
Sorari. So rare. I just feel like such a prick saying so rare. That just sounds like a hype beast.
Bro, are you in on So Rare?
The first one is Terra. Terra is the official crypto sponsor of the Washington Nationals.
Supposedly.
Some of you might remember Terra from last year, when I wrote a newsletter about Terra and the Nationals relationship on June 16th, 2022, because Terra had just gone out of business. Not really out of business. They had lost $45 billion in market cap in a week.
They hadn't gone out of business. They had just lost $45 billion in market cap.
Yeah, just a cool $45 billion in market cap because their coin decoupled.
Right.
And the value went to zero.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, they have launched Terra 2.0. I read. Terra 2.0. Let me remind you, we're talking about this because they are the official crypto sponsor of the Washington Nationals. So according to the Washington Nationals and the Lerner family, you should be using this coin, according to them.
Right.
Because they are advertising it to you. That means they think that you should use it. They endorse it.
Yeah.
They have been accepting money to tell you to use this coin.
Yeah, that's the learner guarantee right there.
Exactly. You will make money using Terra. I don't think they actually said that. They said that you could make money using Terra. Terra, whose founder was arrested on one of their founders was arrested on March 23rd because he attempted to travel to Dubai using falsified Costa Rican documents while also carrying falsified Belgian travel documents, but was intercepted and arrested at the airport in Montenegro. A federal grand jury in Manhattan subsequently laid 8 charges against Kwon, including securities fraud, commodities fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy. The following month, KBS News in Korea reported that Kwon had sent 9 billion won, equaling US dollars 7 million, to law firm Kim and Chang prior to the collapse of Terra, USD. Everything's fine here. The Washington Nationals are still advertising this behind home plate on television during Major League Baseball games.
Right. So he's being extradited right now by both the U.S. and South Korea. Is that correct? There are 2 countries who currently would like to arrest him.
Well, if there's a third country out there, maybe he can get the triple crown. Triple crown of extradition. You know? He's just going for the Miguel Cabrera 2012 of Bitcoin or crypto or whatever. Look, I know we've talked about this a lot, honestly. But it still feels just as present in MLB, but nowhere else in culture. Like I feel like we closed the book on cryptocurrency, like being a thing that normal people have to care about, right? Like remember last year? No, I know that cryptocurrency is still a thing, and I know that like the Bitcoin weirdos are still out there.
Yeah, they're at the top of all the Twitter replies right now.
And I know that like Ethereum, which is attached to So Rare, they built the platform, whatever that So Rare uses, Sorare, whatever the fuck. And I know that like it's still an insidious thing that we should care about if we are talking about finance. But as in terms of like I walk out my door and go to the bodega and come back, I should not have to think about crypto. Or like nothing in my daily life should still be getting affected by crypto. It's like a weird thing that we can put in the corner now in most of society.
Right.
And yet, because these Major League Baseball teams just put their grift above all else and wanted to accept this money, they're still advertising. They still have these multi-year deals with these places. The So Rare partnership with MLB is like really just getting off the ground. Now I'm starting to see ads every time I open up MLB TV, Twitter, Instagram. It's all these like partnership posts and whatnot. And it's all about how, and for those who don't know, like this platform So Rare is like fantasy sports, but with NFTs. So like instead of drafting a player in fantasy sports, you get their non-fungible token card version, and how they perform is based on how much it's worth is based on how they perform. And so it's like you're building your fantasy team, but also at the same time you're investing in these players. And, you know, from the player side, it's like a way to continue to make money off your name, image, and likeness. But from the league side, it's like a way to further divorce the real world product from the financial success of the league, which I think is a problem. I think is part of the reason that baseball feels so far away for so many people is because they've stopped prioritizing anything approaching reality. And I realize how much we've talked about like crypto and the blockchain and all these different places that MLB is willing to take money from. But something about like this past week and thinking about all these ads that I'm seeing, the Terra ads circulating on Twitter, the So Rare ads filling up my feeds everywhere, and thinking about this funny, like this blockchain funny money, it's like all fake, you know, as far as I'm concerned. Like, yes, the MLB teams are getting real money for this, but the deregulated whatever the hell doesn't actually exist for like the most real people who are fans of Major League Baseball or baseball, the sport in general. Something about that being so immaterial, and then reading your newsletter this week and seeing all of like the real money that the MLB owners are pulling in from these different ventures and from their Major League Baseball teams being redistributed to like far right political candidates.
Fucking Madison Cawthorn
yeah,
and shit.
is like sending me in a spiral.
Yeah.
Honestly, and how like they're turning baseball, arguably like the most like physically real thing that you can imagine. Like you go to the ballpark and you watch them throw a ball and hit it with a stick. And there's grass and you're outside and there's the sun and there's open air and there's beer and there's all these real things that are great. Turning it into like the fakest, most digital, non-corporeal, non-tangible thing in the world is really just like sending me in a spiral this week.
I think that the last 20 years, I would say, or so, have seen a lot of developments in technology that Major League Baseball relies on, the ways that fans engage with the game and what their streams of income are, right? Part of that is cable TV, which I know, we might touch on later, but as we've talked about before, MLB and more broadly sports leagues in general, I think, are looking at the rapidly changing media and technology landscape and saying, things are changing so fast. We don't need something that's going to be, remain secure for 30, 50, whatever years. If this business exists for a few years and we can squeeze $20 million out of it, great. That's $20 million we didn't have before. And then when that goes kaput, we'll move on to the next venture, right? I think they're looking at things like, say, tangible trading cards, right? Which were a huge part of the baseball sort of
I love that you have to specify that you're talking about real
physical,
trading cards
I'm talking
you
about
can hold in your hand.
Baseball trading cards, yes. That was a huge part of like baseball fandom, as well as this, vehicle for, honestly, like investment, right? For fans who want to bet on the value of a card appreciating over time or depreciating. And as that sort of ecosystem, that economy has disappeared in the last couple of decades, I feel like Major League Baseball is like, look, we need a way to still feel like fans can purchase a piece of the game, right? And own it, right? To the extent that you can own fucking anything on a computer server somewhere, right? The computer says you own it. But I do think this is their reaction to
computer, for giving me this certification that says that I own this collection of pixels.
This is a reaction and saying, well, if that industry doesn't exist anymore, we need to replace it with something, right? Or 5 other streams of number, which is not defending it, right? As a means of making money. But
I think the problem is that industry does exist still. It's just number one, priced out like normal baseball fans. And number two, is mostly dominated by people who actually don't care about real life baseball. It's like professional card collectors own the card industry. It's not people who, for the most part, it's not people who are like, I'm going to go to the ballpark on Saturday and then on Sunday I'm going to go to a baseball card convention. It's like, I'm going to spend $28 million on baseball cards on Saturday and then resell it for $31 million on Sunday. It's like everything in baseball and sports and life and art and entertainment is just becoming fake. It's just becoming not real. And remember last year we had this whole digression about physical media and about how if it exists on Netflix one day and it's not there the next day, then you're screwed and that piece of art has just been removed from history or whatever. Like, baseball looks at that and they're like, cool, that's an opportunity to make more money. Like, that's an opportunity to get people to pay for the servers so that, we can squeeze a little bit of profit out on the back end of that. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, what happened to sports being the respite from that? Like, what happened to the core interest value, the core entertainment value of sports being a thing that you actually go and watch in person? Or if you can't go and watch it in person, at the very least, you just watch it on TV, but you're actually watching the sport. You're not using the sport being pumped through the Ethereum blockchain via an algorithm that gives players a score from 0 to 100, how well they perform, that raises the value of your non-fungible token related to how the player played this past week. Like, that is just not, that's garbage. I'm sorry. If that is entertaining to people, that's fine as a niche interest for a few people who are interested in it, but I don't need it to be platformed. Like, I don't. You know what I want to be platformed is the sport that I actually want to watch. Maybe you might say, like, oh, why not have it all? Why not, if this makes it more interesting for baseball fans in some communities, great. If this makes it, if this raises excitement about the NBA or about a certain player because you got their card on So Rare or whatever it's actually called, then how is that a bad thing? It's a bad thing because they're spending all their time doing this fucking bullshit. Like, and they're not spending their time actually making it possible for people to access the real game. Mm-hmm. It's not getting cheaper to go to a game in person because they're making so much money from this other thing. It's actually getting more expensive to go to a game in person, and they're still making money from this other thing. So show me how it makes market sense, let alone practical sense for like the health of your sport or like the future of your sport. It just doesn't make sense.
I know I've brought this up before, right? But in the early 2000s, the Astros decided to name their field after Enron, right? I'm wearing my beloved Enron field cap right now, prize collection of mine. And like
dude, my So Rare field cap in 2051 is going to be so sick.
It's going to be so rare.
I'm going to know how to pronounce it by then.
But like once upon a time, Enron was seen as like a cautionary tale for companies of like, hey, make sure to like read the books, make sure to like look through and do your due diligence before just like blindly diving in.
Oh, you're saying like for other companies who are doing business
for
with
other right, yeah. Exactly. Or just like, the government,
like the general business community.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Everyone else who's like looking at a company that says, hey, we're doing really well, you should want to get into business with us. I feel like what most people reasonably took away from that is, hey, maybe not everything is as meets the eye. Yeah. Right. Especially given, around the time of the financial crash. Like, you think we would have taken some lessons away from that? And in the last year, both Terra and, let's not forget, FTX went belly up, right? FTX.
And their founders are on the run.
Right. Exactly. And I do feel like the
Google search non-extradition countries.
I feel like developments like these are really telling about how well MLB is actually doing. Because if you can weather multiple crypto scams in a year and like it's still fine, like maybe your sport is doing okay. Maybe that whole thing about how you're actually losing money every single year starts to ring less true.
Bro, they're not getting paid by Diamond Sports Group for the Bally streamers. They're just not getting their payments. And guess what didn't happen? They didn't go out of business. They're just not getting their main source of revenue, and everything seems to be fine.
Right. Every 6 months, they have a situation that puts them in like dire financial straits. And they're like, if we don't get this money, we may not survive as a sport.
It's been nice having baseball.
Right.
I'm so sorry for the promising young career of Shohei Ohtani, but it's been cut short. He's going to go play indie ball now because the Angels are going under.
And then they're like, we've announced a $100 billion sponsorship with, Bored Ape Yacht Club or whatever. Like,
did you see that Elon, the reporting around the A's moving to Vegas was that the boring, whatever the fuck that's called.
Yeah, like the
boring company was going to build them little tubes to get fans to the stadium. Here's your little tube. Now come watch the A's. What's the worst experience, getting in one of those tubes or having to watch the A's in Vegas?
Jesus fucking Christ, man. I mean, I respect it. At least the fans won't have to like be outside on the way to the game, right?
I feel like it might get hot in those tubes, though. Well. There's not a lot of coolant happening in Vegas. Not a lot of water to kind of cool the whole system down.
Oh my god, man! This is like, what a fucking joke.
Never mind the fact that like this is a risk. Like using this platform, So Rare, Sorare. Never mind that people could lose money on that, like there's not like a deep understanding of what you're actually investing in and whether or not it could completely just the floor could fall out from underneath it. Like the financial volatility of this is much higher than the financial volatility of a physical baseball card because this thing is like a year old. It was literally launched last June. And now MLB's like, sign up. Don't come to us if something goes wrong, but sign up, because we need them to make money so that they can continue to pay us money. It's not enough that you're paying us directly for 17 different things. You have to pay another company to then give the money to us also. Everything just cycles back to us. It's all that's the circle of life here. I just when taken into account along with like the sports betting and all of the ads that are going on there, I'm just looking at all of the things. I'm just looking at all of the things that MLB is telling me that I should use, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to use any of these things.
Yeah.
And I don't really think anyone else should use any of these things either. It's not just that I'm just like a weird, quirky guy who doesn't want to use all of the consumerist products that you are selling me. It's like the products are actually not usable for like 99% of people. And I don't know. I don't mean to do the like concern troll baseball's role in this country, but like, isn't this supposed to be like important to the United States? Like, isn't this quote unquote America's pastime? Like, have some honestly, this is gonna sound like a Fox News segment. Have some fucking dignity. This is embarrassing. This is my audition for Tucker Carlson's seat.
This is good, yeah.
Have some dignity, dude. You take these ads back to the Lords of the Realm and you say, this is what we built on what you gave us. And you see what they say to you. This is ridiculous.
Counterpoint, there is no sport that better represents the death spiral that we're in right now as a country. Selling for parts, fucking grifts left and right. I think it's great, frankly.
Yeah, and the original thing that was like supposed to be worthwhile, the reason you came here, is being kneecapped at every opportunity. I mean, I know we wrote down I know we said we were not going to talk about the A's anymore, but that was just a joke. Like, we have to talk about the A's. Like all the while we're light speed, all engines are go on the digitization of baseball. Meanwhile, the actual real thing, we're just going to be fucking with that the whole time. We're going to take the A's out of Las Vegas, or we're going to take the A's out of Oakland and move them to Las Vegas. So the real product is as flimsy as ever, but the digital product, that's the thing that we want you guys to focus on and care about.
Yeah. I mean, I think that
those two things are not divorced,
Right.
I think those two things are linked.
I think what Rob Manfred sees a lot of his role being right now is a marketing exercise. Like, that's all it is. It's not actually about improving the product of the
go to college.
Sport.
Just like take a fucking class at NYU Stern instead. If
Yeah.
that's really what you want to do with your life.
Or an Instagram business account.
Like, exactly. Just join a multi-level marketing scheme.
Yeah.
Some people actually care about this, Rob. Like, some people actually care about baseball. I'm like, the fact that you're like pumping it full of fucking first year business student ideas just to make John Fisher more money. Like, give me a break.
I know.
Seriously.
I don't know, bro.
I warned you, I warned you that I was going to do this. I was like, this is going to take...
You were like, I have one topic and it's going to be 45 minutes.
And guess what? It was. Okay, should we move on? Should we talk about the A's?
Sure.
The updates on the
Briefly.
Oakland Athletics.
Yeah.
Just a hilarious week in the A's.
Just what a week. What a week.
Should we start with the fact that not a single Las Vegas politician agrees with anything that came from Dave Kaval or John J. Fisher's camp? Or should we start with the fact that they're doing just full-on propaganda?
Mm-hmm. I want to touch on just the kind of bungling of this rollout real quick.
Yeah.
Because it is incredibly funny.
It's so funny
that the A's made this announcement not only amidst negotiations with the city of Oakland, but also while Las Vegas lawmakers were meeting to discuss this very thing. The A's are currently asking for about $500 million in taxpayer money from Clark County in Las Vegas.
I have an idea.
Okay.
They could invest it in Ethereum. And then once this Sorare idea takes off, this stable coin Ethereum,
right?
Terra,
once they repeg it to the dollar,
right? Once Terra 2.0 repegs, it'll be worth at least $1 million.
Right.
And that way they have $500 million extra dollars. Do you think they thought of that? Like, if MLB is so certain that this is a good idea, why not just get the money that way?
Right. Like, they're very confident in these products that they're marketing.
Right. The decentralized stable coins.
Yeah. This is an opportunity for the common man like you and I to
get in on the ground floor.
Yeah.
Make our
Why not JJF?
Yeah. Once upon a time, there was a gold rush in this country. Why not again?
Yeah. If you're such a good business person.
Exactly. Take some of those Gap Cash tokens. Gap Cash, by the way, that's the original non-fungible token. It's like when you thank you, John J. Fisher. When you do like a $60 purchase and they're like, you got $150 in Gap Cash. You have to spend $300 to exercise it. It's like,
hang on a second.
Hang on.
The tentative deadline for this request of the money is the legislative session that ends on June 5th.
I'm so sick of tentative deadlines.
I know. Though negotiations could be extended. Again, like always, deadlines don't mean anything. Like if the two people just get together and decide, can we decide tomorrow?
Exactly.
They just get to do that.
Yeah.
They could, if a deal is not reached with Clark County, they could withdraw the land purchase agreement. Because again, they've only purchased the land. They haven't actually secured the funding for the ballpark, right?
Right.
But like, the sense that I am getting is that maybe they overplayed their hand just a touch.
That doesn't sound like MLB.
No, not at all. It doesn't. I think they probably thought they had a little more leverage than they actually do when it comes to the city of Oakland, who promptly again turned around and said, "Oh, you're moving to Las Vegas.
Yeah,
have fun.
Yeah.
We'll send you a card."
Yeah. In last week's episode of Succession, when they're on the mountaintop and they're trying to tank the deal, and Alexander Skarsgård's character says, "Are you Scooby-Dooing me here?" Hanna-Barbera fucking business school. It wasn't about MLB, but it kind of felt.
Okay, I mean, I've been this past week, I've been like, reading John Fisher's Wikipedia page, right? And like reading all the like footnotes and shit, right?
Right.
And
just normal guy stuff.
That's just what I do on a Thursday evening. And again, lots of really interesting nuggets in there. Some of which I do want to save for future projects.
I'm sorry, I was just laughing so hard because I know the context of the fact that your significant other was out of town. But listeners didn't know that. And so now I'm going to tell them is that Alex was alone. His significant other was out of town.
Weeks.
And instead of partying, instead of just being a guy laying back, cracking some brews, ordering pizza, and having the dudes over to watch some ball, he was reading John Fisher's Wikipedia page's footnotes.
I was finding his dad's unauthorized biography.
Right. So the biography. So tell everybody about the biography.
Right. Yeah. So I mean,
the next 6 months of Tipping Pitches.
Right. So I did come across this 700-page autobiography from Donald Fisher. That's John's father.
Right.
And
you would have thought that Alex found the Rosetta Stone the way he texted me about this.
Oh my God. I was like, you will not believe this. It was only distributed to close friends and family, but a copy does exist on the Internet Archive, which is just like the holy grail of the web.
Do you think that did you think that a friend uploaded it? Do you think that a kid uploaded it because they were spurned? Not JJF, because JJF got control of the Gap,
right,
and was able to weaponize that into ruining your entire baseball fandom. But like another kid who didn't get controlling shares of the Gap,
right, like a cousin who wanted in,
right,
and
they wouldn't let him in.
Yeah, I do like that theory.
Just working on it.
I did download all 700 pages. They're sitting in a PDF on my desktop right now, so I have my work cut out for me. The reason I brought
this, the Twitter files.
I will.
John J. Fisher's close family has given me
sources close. The reason I bring it up is because you mentioned Succession.
The reason you bring it up is because it's the funniest thing ever.
It's just fucking me, right? You mentioned Succession, and the more I read about the Fisher family and John Fisher specifically, I realized just how much. Again, like we've said this before, but like just how much these dynamics mirror the ones that play out in Succession. Like John Fisher's business history is following in the footsteps of his two older brothers, going to the same like high school and college and studying all the exact same things. They all studied the same stuff. And working on a congressional campaign that lost. From there, he went to like a real estate business that did company with the Gap that failed. At which point he was then just hired by his family to come work in-house at the investment company, which turned around and bought the Oakland Athletics. So
this was the separate investment company that the family also had?
Right, exactly.
Like to manage the family.
It wasn't even something that his dad was interested in. He was like, John, if you want to do this, go do it.
Right. I can't wait until my family has so many businesses that I have one of them that I'm not interested in.
Right? We're like, you want to spend how much? Like $200 million on the baseball team?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as you run it.
I'm going to get into wholesale groceries, fruits, vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to follow in the Castellini footsteps. My favorite Italian Americans before me, Bob Castellini and his whole family. I'm just going to get into the wholesale vegetables situation.
Yeah.
He's got carrots and lettuce and mushrooms, porcini, the vegetable king, Bob Castellini.
Do you have like a supplier?
I think that's a good question. Gonna have to figure those out at the shareholder meetings.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's a grocery store right on your corner that's really good.
I can make enough money to buy the A's.
The only other thing I want to mention with regards to the A's is I do have to appreciate the last week of Las Vegas media kind of coming to terms with the fact that not very much of this actually adds up. Both the Nevada Independent and the Las Vegas Review-Journal each had columns saying, are we really sure that this guy's on the up and up?
Yeah.
Is this really the guy we want to be tying our future to? The Nevada Independent pointed out what the A's are asking for is the equivalent of what the Las Vegas Strip has to pay in casino and gambling taxes in a year. They make around $8 billion. They have to pay around $500 million. And the A's are like, yes, we'll take that. That's ours.
Just the entire driving force of the Las Vegas economy.
Yep.
We'll have that for a year. Thank you very much. That's cool. Seems like they got that situation all figured out.
Mm-hmm.
No loose ends.
Nope.
Should we talk about the propaganda?
Oh, right. Fuck.
So, who was it that hit the home run? God damn it, I can't name A's players. Shea Langelier's having a good year.
Yeah.
Who's the other guy who has like 10 home runs?
Yeah, Brent Rooker.
Yeah. Which team is he going to be on by June?
The Las Vegas A's.
So who was it that hit the home run?
So
it was the propaganda home run?
Right. So it was first baseman Ryan Noda.
Sure.
Our two hitter.
Right. He hits a home run to right field, which is where the diehards sit at the Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the diehards, this is the A's first home game. After you talked about they were out of town for 2 weeks when they made this announcement. It's their first home game. And all the signs that were there say sell the team, varying degrees of John Fisher, eat shit kind of situation. And on the broadcast, you can see all of those because it's just the broadcast. You see the whole outfield when you hit a home run.
Beautifully placed home run by Ryan Noda.
Exactly.
I just want to say thank you so much.
That was
God's work.
That was praxis.
Yep.
Thank you, Ryan Noda. And then when MLB reshared that little highlight, they cropped the video into like a square, like they cropped it so that it was like super zoomed on the ball so that you can't see the signs. And it's just, if that's not everything you need to know about Major League Baseball's priorities, I don't know what is.
No, it's incredibly instructive on this worldview that they think they can edit out the anger that fans feel right now, the passion that fans feel for their team, right? Like these people would not be sitting here with these signs if they did not care about the Oakland A's, right? The fact that they're there and showing up to watch this historically awful team.
They're the worst team ever.
They are maybe the worst team to literally ever play the sport of baseball. And yet there are fans who are there who are saying, we still have love for this organization and we could again if the right person was in charge, right? And they're not interested in hearing that. That's just not the fact that there are thousands and thousands of fans who are saying, we'll come back. We'll be here when you're ready to show up for us. And the league's like, crop. Save as new video.
The A's are 5-23.
Mm-hmm.
That is a 179 win percentage.
Yep. No pitcher wins yet.
That's a new record. No pitcher wins. The first 28 games of the year, not a single starting pitcher win.
Starting pitcher win. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That is a 29 win pace for the year. They're gonna wrap this campaign up at 29 and 133 if they stayed on this pace. They have a negative 118 run differential, which is good for. That means on average they are losing every game by at least 4 runs. And that's not even including the games that they win.
Right.
So that means in their losses, they're losing by like 6 runs.
Right,
on
exactly.
average. That they are on pace to absolutely shatter the run differential record. Not only just the run differential record for the live ball era, but including the Cleveland Spiders, the worst team of all time.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to regress. Like they are going to improve most likely, but if they don't, this is like all time tank the franchise value level bad season.
Yes.
And so, I've seen a lot of people, including us, like, sell the team. The only way out of this now with Las Vegas kind of pumping the brakes and Oakland saying, we're not going to talk to this ownership group anymore. We would resume negotiations. If the franchise were to change hands, we could restart negotiations. We're done with these people, which is actually really funny.
Yeah.
Does someone want to buy this team? I mean, someone does want to buy this team because someone wants to buy every team. Like no matter how dysfunctional or barren they happen to be at the moment of sale, someone bought the 2011 Astros. He just turned out to be Jim Crane, which was unfortunate for society. Never, he had finished in his war profiteering era and he wanted to get into baseball.
Yep.
So we just need to find someone who's done with their war profiteering era.
Yeah.
Or maybe like an oil guy.
Right. What's Rex Tillerson up to these days?
I don't think he has the cash for that, dude.
No, probably not.
Yeah. Took a financial hit, took a pay cut when he decided to be Secretary of State.
Yeah.
Was he was Secretary of State,
I think
right?
so, yeah.
Wasn't he one of those guys who took like a principled stance against Trump?
Right.
He was like,
which means that
I will no longer provoke North Korea because I don't believe in nuclear armaments or nuclear warfare.
I thought he was one of those guys where like after he left the position, all the stories came out of like actually when he was in the role, Rex Tillerson stood up to Trump all the time.
Oh, so he was a voice of reason guy.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
I just
Thanks, Rex.
Thanks Rex
for
for
your
one out for him.
contributions. There were so many of those guys.
There were.
Do you think anyone's ever going to come out and be like, I was pumping him up? I was telling him he wasn't going far enough.
I mean, we've already had a few of those guys, and they're the ones running his campaign right now.
Well, that's true.
Just politics talk here. You want to talk electoral college?
Can he get elected from jail?
We're not taking Marianne Williamson seriously enough.
What do you think about the DeSantis prison thing?
Like for prison?
No, did you not see this?
Or the thing where he wants to build a prison at Disney.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
one.
yeah. Sick.
Great.
I just, once again, so good that he was like, I'd like to be president. And you know what Americans hate? Disney World.
The most successful business in history.
To bring it back to the A's, again, just to bring it home, if they are such a unprofitable team, right? If they are such a bad business to run, you'd think that John Fisher would be interested in getting out, right? You'd think that he would be saying, "Look, I'm losing money on this. It's not viable in the long term. I'd like to offload this asset," right? And it just seems funny to me that while the organization talks about this really tough financial situation they're in, John Fisher refuses to entertain offers.
Yeah.
He's like steadfast in saying, I'm not interested in selling, which just makes me wonder on what the value is there then.
Business school 101, bro. You don't tell people that you're ready to sell. come on, JJF. He went to the foolproof business school of growing up as a billionaire. It's never steered anyone in the wrong direction. So we were out to dinner like a month ago for my birthday, and we were maybe morbidly joking about the A's. It was right at the beginning of the baseball season and how bad they are. And this was before Las Vegas rumors really, I mean, of course, Las Vegas rumors have been swirling for about 2 years, but this was before it seemed like the most viable path like it does now and like it has over the last 2 weeks, although, you know, your mileage may vary on that.
Yeah.
But we were talking and we were saying, like, I can't tell you how much my life has improved since Steve Cohen bought from the Wilpons, and we need to find you a Steve Cohen. You know, we need to find you a financial crimes guy. Everybody needs a financial crimes guy in their life. And we were joking about how going through the entire Forbes 100 richest people in the world or 500 richest people, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't often read that article. The one that they update in real time, just going through that whole list and just, you know, like your immediate reaction, 1 to 10, how much would you want this guy to own your team would be a good pod. I think we just might need to make that pod happen.
Yeah.
Because now it's like there's serious talk about how someone will need to swoop in and buy this team.
Right.
And
in order to keep them in Oakland.
Maybe in order to keep them in Oakland. And maybe some hands will need to be greased along the way. Like maybe, you know, Rob will need to step in and be like, Mr. Fisher, the other 29 owners would really like you to sell the team. So that we can keep dangling Las Vegas over the other cities' heads.
Right.
And, you know, maybe that's not the case. But in that fantasy world, I do think that that's a fun pod for us. So maybe we bank that one on a week where we're busy and just like roll this one out into the world.
Well, so we're thinking about guys who are past their financial crimes era, right?
I mean, hopefully Steve Cohen would not be
right.
A good. We need Steve Cohen around Citi Field, you know?
So
if Steve Cohen got arrested for financial crimes, hypothetically speaking,
right.
had he done anything, and I believe he has not admitted any wrongdoing, you know? Do you think they would make him sell? I don't think they would. Like, if Steve Cohen was in prison, do you think he would still own the Mets? Because they'd have a hell of a fucking time trying to get him to sell the team.
I know.
There's no rule in the MLB owner's charter that says you can't break the law. Is there?
I mean, I have to assume that is not a rule given everything we see on a weekly basis.
Because, like, okay.
But they could force him, right? If all 29 and Manfred came and said, you need to sell, like.
How? Wasn't this the thing with, like, the Clippers and Donald Sterling and, you know, Robert Sarver and the Suns, who we're going to talk about in like 5 minutes?
Sure.
Wasn't like they were pressuring him to sell the team, but wasn't there nothing that could legally force him to sell the team? They were just kind of making his life miserable, and he was like an old racist man with very little backbone, and he just decided to cash out and sell the team.
But what good is an antitrust protection for if you can't do shit unilaterally like this? Like, use your monopoly powers.
That's true. Maybe that's
good.
different between the NBA and MLB. How bad would the financial crime have to be where other owners would be like, let's force him to sell the team? I guess they don't like Cohen already, so this would be like their golden goose.
Well, the name that first came to my mind is someone, again, who's already through their financial crimes era, and that's Terra founder Do Kwon.
I should have seen that one coming.
He's got the cash.
Does he?
I don't know.
I mean, he's trying to like steal $7 million at a time. That's like fucking pennies. That's like a middle reliever.
Yeah.
That's like a mop-up guy. That's Tommy Hunter. Come on, those are fucking rookie numbers. Dude, Taylor Swift got to be approaching a couple billion. She could buy a team.
I mean,
she could be.
Would she be a part of the Nashville expansion?
Probably.
Like, it
but
feels
that doesn't
like
help us with the A's.
I mean, no.
So this is the problem with sports ownership: is that these teams have become so valuable that kind of the only people who can come in and buy them are like in the 50 richest people in the world already.
Right.
And they already have so much money that they either have to be sports fans or they either have to be sports fans or they need this other thing to like hide profit somewhere.
Yeah.
You know? And so that really narrows the window of people who can come in and buy a team to a gaggle of crooks. And people who made their money in like taking people's life insurance away.
Well,
you know, like
I mean,
mortgages, like ripping up mortgages and evicting people. Like those are the people who buy teams now.
I know. Well, I don't know if you saw a couple weeks ago, there was the article that came out about FTX and how they were approaching different like artists, right? And I think they approached Taylor and had a meeting.
Oh yeah.
And in the meeting,
was huge for the Swifties.
Right. Supposedly in the meeting, either she asked or her legal representation asked, so can you tell me that these are not unregistered securities? Which I would like to be very clear. I don't know what that means. I don't, whether they're registered or not, doesn't make a difference.
I learned about what that means when I was doing my research on Sorare.
Fuck yeah, dude. All right. Would you like to explain?
So, okay, this is a thing right now. They're trying to pass a bill in Congress that classifies cryptocurrency as commodities or securities or something to that effect. I think that those are legally different things or whatever, but then they would be under the jurisdiction of the regulatory body that controls, trade in America, meaning you can't just trade stocks and securities and bonds and stuff without any kind of oversight into them. And money can't change hands without like a paper trail between those two things. Otherwise, it's obviously, ripe for exploitation. And so basically what her representation was asking is, are these functionally...
Right. Is there oversight on these?
Yeah. Are these functioning in the economy as securities and exchanges do?
Right. Basically, is this legal?
Yes.
And they were like, well, and she was like, goodbye.
It's a gray area. Huge win for Swifties.
Huge win for
They
Swifties.
offered her, I think the report was $100 million
to sponsor her tour. Can you imagine the Eras tour sponsored by FTX? Can you imagine having to buy tickets to that?
There's plenty of things to criticize Taylor Swift over. Plenty of things.
Yeah.
But if the bar is MLB, she is clearing them. Like, why does Taylor Swift individually have way more backbone than Major League Baseball? And the answer is because she actually has to get people to like her. MLB does not give a fuck about that.
Yeah.
They don't care about whether or not you think that they're doing the right thing. And Taylor Swift, who actually has to make music that people listen to and like, is invested in that.
Right.
Maybe more so than anyone on earth.
Right. I mean, it sounds like they had a very real conversation about this potential partnership. And it's worth pointing out that like Taylor's dad, I think, comes from the finance world. So like she like
Exposed.
Yeah, I know, right? She like has an understanding of what this is, but it also feels very telling that it was like, oh, she asked this question because, her dad's in finance. And Major League Baseball was like, oh, it's pegged to the US dollar. Don't know what it means, but US dollar is pretty good. Big fan of that. Let's get some more in here.
Yeah, they have no excuse.
No.
I mean, like, there are examples of other people realizing this is a fucking scam. Oh, it's really funny. Okay, can we talk about the Suns real quick?
Sure.
The Suns and the Phoenix Mercury, who were both recently purchased in one acquisition from Robert Sarver by Matt Ishbia, who is the CEO and chairman of the mortgage lender United Wholesale Mortgage. Ishbia is very wealthy. His net worth today, according to Forbes, is $7.2 billion. I believe that makes him the second richest owner in the NBA. And he would be the, I think, like second or third richest owner in baseball, too, if he had bought a baseball team. He acquired the Suns and the Mercury in like February, like late January, right before the NBA trade deadline. And immediately decided to trade for Kevin Durant, which was a cool move. Yeah. But he's like, he was rumored to be interested in buying an NBA team for a really long time. And he has a level of wealth that maybe some more legacy sports owners and NBA owners don't have. And so he came in, wanted to make a big impact, whatever. They trade for Kevin Durant, all in move. It came out this past week that while Bally Sports, Diamond Sports Group, is missing payments to some Major League Baseball teams. Bally Sports also the regional cable network for a lot of NBA teams as well. It came out that because of these missed payments, it resulted in, from Ishbia and the Suns and the Mercury's perspective, a breach of contract. And so they decided that they were not going to renew their contract or not offer Bally Sports the opportunity to renew the contract to broadcast Suns and Mercury games. And so instead, their games will no longer be available on cable television. They'll be broadcast on, like a additional cable package. It'll be like basic cable, like there'll be a local TV channel
on your
like,
channel 2.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, CBS or whatever. Like how you can get those channels for free if you just plug your TV into the wall.
Right.
You don't have to pay anything extra. And then for people who don't have TV or don't have, like a coaxial cable to plug their TV into the wall or whatever, there is a streaming platform too. And so basically, if you live in this area, you can watch all of their games for free. They're giving up however many tens of millions of dollars per year that they were making before from cable. And they, when asked about this, Ishbia basically said, like, we're now reaching almost 3 million people, and before we were reaching like a few 100,000 people. And we think in the long run, that's a good business bet to create more fans who are going to spend their money and feel more invested in the team for a lot longer because they can actually see them now. Fascinating timing.
Yeah, he said, we're not focusing on money. We're focusing on winning, success, and taking care of fans, taking care of the community. What happens is you always end up making money. It always works out.
Like,
not the way I understand it, actually. I think it's very hard.
Let me just say off the bat, they are thinking about money.
Of course.
He just bought the team, and they're thinking about money in the long term.
Right. And they recognize that they will make money off this.
Exactly. What he's saying is we're not only thinking about this year's bottom line like so many sports owners and leagues do.
Yeah.
What a revolutionary concept.
We're recognizing that if we create more basketball fans, that is better for the overall health of the sport, and we'll probably be able to make money off that.
So it presents an interesting question. Is MLB going to do something like this?
Right.
Like, would an MLB team follow in Ishbia and the Suns and Mercury's footsteps? Or would like the central MLB streaming platform do something like this? I mean, it's definitely not going to be free if MLB does something like this.
Right.
But would they recede entirely from the cable model and have a more wide reach approach to this? Because on one hand, like, if you read the tea leaves of Rob's quotes about how interested he is in an all 30 team streaming service, blah, 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 all these things he said so many times, then yeah, you might think that this is like the first domino in like the completely cutting the cord from the business side as well, not just from the consumer side. But on the other hand, like, everything we've talked about on this episode has all been about what's going to make these teams the most money in the short term. And that's not the philosophy of Ishbia here. And so, I don't know. I just thought it was an intriguing data point in terms of how we think about like business and finance and sports.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to tip my cap to the guy who made his money in mortgages, but like,
it's like if you are going to buy a basketball team, like,
might as well just let people watch it.
Right.
Yeah. If this is going to be a vanity passion project, like, why not bring as many people along for the ride as possible?
I know. I mean, baseball is also in a really sort of unique broadcast situation where so much of it has kind of been this piecemeal thing that's been put together team by team over the course of the years, right? And so obviously Bally holds the rights to a handful of baseball teams. You know, some of them are with NBC. Some of them have their own local broadcast, right? Like
SNY, yes.
Right, exactly. Meanwhile, the Orioles and the Nationals have been in this decade-long dispute over Masson, right? And it was
Nationals got that dub,
and the Nationals got the dub in court. This
first big win since 2019.
There it is. Meanwhile, like Bally, it came out this week that a court is ordering Bally to pay 4 MLB teams like 50% of the fees, and there's a 5th team, the Reds, that like need to figure out their own right. And so I think that like this is one of the biggest obstacles is that they've spent the last 2 decades sort of cobbling together these ecosystems that would be ready for like, the next generation of TV watching. And now that era is coming to an end.
Yeah.
And so they have to kind of deconstruct it piece by piece, right? And I do think that Rob's inclination is to not follow that trend again, right? And say we're going to offer a team-by-team streaming service. As you mentioned, I think what he wants to do is in one fell swoop, say all 30 teams you can access blackout free, as opposed to saying, well, we'll do the Rangers on cable TV and the Reds on streaming service. I think that's probably more work for them than is worth it.
I guess my question has always been, though, here's the problem. Even if you took away the regional cable money that the 25 lowest earning teams made, you just took it away. Doesn't exist. You said they're not on cable at all. MLB would still be financially solvent just from the New York teams and LA. And I don't know who the other two biggest markets are on television. I guess like Philadelphia and Houston, we'll say, just because those are, two of the 5 biggest cities in America. Boston, probably, because it's a big Chicago. Yeah, whatever. You take away everybody but their, regional cable money. The revenue sharing that would come from just the money that the Yankees and the Mets and the Cubs and the Dodgers make would be enough to keep these teams afloat. And so they're not going to give up on that money. Like, they're not going to say all 30 teams are here.
Right.
And it's the only place that you can watch them. And so now it becomes this delicate balance and argument and debate between MLB and the regional cable networks. How much are you devaluing our product of putting baseball on our television channel on cable by also having it available to stream in another place?
Mm-hmm.
So people don't have to sign up for our cable package anymore. It's just the people that want to get it can get it there, and the people that want to get it on streaming can get it there also. And this is all, to me, legalese bullshit. Like, I don't really care. Figure it out. Like, that's what you get paid $50 million a year for, Rob Manfred, or however much you get paid, is to figure out a way to get baseball in front of as many people as possible. And I'm not as sold on the idea that there is a simple solution to that.
Yeah.
Or even a solution at all. That doesn't involve some form of like passing the responsibility onto the consumer. And so, like, instead of saying, now we have a streaming service, we have MLB TV with blackouts turned off, what we are going to have is MLB TV with blackouts and an SNY and Yes Network integration into MLB TV, where you can also add their OTT over the top streaming service on top a la carte in MLB TV. And so it's like you're going to be paying $149.99 a year for MLB TV and $8 a month for SNY, all in MLB TV. And that's just not what Rob is alluding to when he's saying we want the blackout free streaming service. No. I mean, that's what he is thinking of.
Right. Yes.
But it's not what he's trying to make you think is going to happen.
No.
So I just am prepared to be hoodwinked by this whole situation.
Yeah. I mean, I do think they have. I mean, I wrote this in a newsletter a couple months ago. Like, there's a real opportunity for them to actually be a leader on this if they want to, right? The Bally Sports bankruptcy, again, they can follow now in the footsteps of the Suns and the Mercury if they want. But as you said, I mean, they just approach their business differently. It's not about getting the product in front of as many eyeballs as possible. It's about what can we squeeze out of the people who are already watching the game. They're already here. We don't have to do the work.
It's like what Mike Duncan said last week when he was talking about how the president of the Angels a few years ago let slip that they don't really care how many people come to the games as long as those people are richer.
Yeah.
Or spending more money or
right,
whatever,
yeah.
functionally equivalent. So yeah, they don't care how many people watch baseball as long as those people are spending enough money to make them solvent. More than solvent.
Yeah.
Make them boatloads of cash. This was a real in the weeds episode, huh?
Yeah, man. RSNs, NFTs.
So does that mean that we have to wash it down in the near future with like the Forbes idea?
Yeah.
With we found the next A zoner. You're not going to believe who it is. That would crush on YouTube.
That would, yeah. One weird trick to make a Major League Baseball team profitable.
Okay, thank you everybody for listening. We made mention of the newsletter. Newsletter is a perk of our highest tier on Patreon. That's patreon.com/tippingpitches. $5, $7, $12 a month as your option. One of the listed perks on the $12 option is to join us for live streams every other month of baseball games. Those take place on a sports streaming service, web streaming service called Playback. We haven't done one of those yet this season, but we are making plans to do those. We're making plans to do the first one of those shortly, and we will obviously communicate that through the necessary channels to get the folks who are signed up for that level of the Patreon access to it. I want to apologize to people for not doing one of those yet, just because we are now, over a month into the season. It's just been, frankly, a lot of travel for me and Alex recently. And looking ahead to the rest of this year, it's going to be a lot of that too. This podcast that we're recording right now is the last podcast we're going to record in person together in New York until like July. So just know that we're not like totally blowing this concept off, even though it functionally is basically we're behind. But Alex's newsletter was really good and well researched, and so the fact that it was late, he made up for it by putting some fun graphics.
Thanks, Bob.
If you'd like to reach out and ask questions or share thoughts, tippingpitchespod@gmail.com. 785-422-5881 is our voicemail. A couple people called and a couple people emailed making pitches to you about who you should root for if the A's leave for Las Vegas. So maybe we can fold that into we're finding new A's owner episode. Yeah. We're just making it the break in case of emergency for the Oakland Athletics pod. Anything else to add before we go?
I just want to add that we've got merch.
Yeah.
We have a website, tippingpitches.myshopify.com.
That's right.
I'm wearing the sweatshirt right now. I gotta say, pretty cozy. It's not. This is not SpawnCon. I'm not getting so close. I know. This is not SpawnCon. I'm not. I don't have a script in front of me. I'm not getting paid to do this. I just
What really happened is that you were supposed to order our sweatshirts for us.
It's like 6 months ago.
6 months ago, and you finally remembered to do it, and they came, and we saw them.
Yeah.
And they look great. And honestly, we weren't sure how they would look, but they do look good. And the stitching on them is lovely. And so you can still get yourself a Tipping Pitches crew neck. You can get yourself some shirts. Might even be able to get yourself some newly designed shirts in the near future.
I don't know, maybe.
When those hypothetical newly designed shirts hit the internet, we'll be giving out a promo code on the podcast for listeners of the show. So keep that in mind when you're deciding whether or not to go to tippingpitches.myshopify.com
within the next week.
Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back next week.
Everybody, I'm Alex Rodriguez. Tipping Pitches.
Tipping Pitches.
This is the one that I love the most.
Tipping Pitches.
So we'll see you next week. See ya!
You took it back. But you shouldn't have.
You just have had that stuck in your head since last night?
Yep. Actually, last week.
Tell you what, that's a hit.
That's just an amazing song. It's like a perfect song.
That's 2 chords, the truth.
That it literally is.
What was the third thing? And I guess just Cowboy Joe.
Yeah, well, his thing was 3 chords in the
3
truth,
chords in the truth.
Yeah.
Sorry. I cut a chord out of there.
Dum, dum, dum. I don't know if you ever watched them do that performance live on, I think, Jimmy Kimmel. They did it in in the parking lot of the Forum in
Oh,
Los Angeles.
I did see this. Yeah.
It's fucking unreal.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, you guys are all just fucking brilliant musicians.
Yeah, they are
That's
great
sick.
musicians.
Oh, Danielle, you can just sing and play the drums. Oh.
Is singing and playing the drums the most underrated skill in the world?
It's crazy.
It's like no one should be able to do that.
No.
They're like, if HAIM came out in 1972, they would have been like the biggest band in the world.
Yes.
And now they're just like for
fucking pitchfork
hipsters.
readers.
Yeah, exactly. People who live in Los Angeles. I don't know. The greater Phoebe Bridgers Taylor Swift extended universe.
Literally.
Okay. Here we go.